You see, one of the most misunderstood truths about women is how deeply connected their sensuality is to sensory awareness. When a woman is genuinely attracted to you, not just emotionally or intellectually, but physically, her entire sensory system becomes more alive in your presence. And here's what most men miss: those subtle cues, those almost imperceptible shifts in energy and behavior are not accidental. They're strategic. They're rooted in biology, in psychology, and in centuries of learned feminine wisdom. She may not come out and say, "I want you." But the body speaks before the lips ever do. Her eyes begin to linger, not just glancing but gazing, as if studying you with a kind of gentle hunger. That gaze, that's not just about how you look. It's her trying to experience you, trying to feel your presence from across the room. When she stares a moment too long and then looks away, it's not shyness. It's precision. It's the art of giving you a taste of her interest without surrendering all her cards. It's attraction layered in restraint. And then there's her voice. Most men never notice this, but a woman who desires you will subtly shift her tone. Her voice softens. It becomes more melodic, more fluid. There's a rhythm to her speech that almost mimics the intimacy she's imagining with you. This isn't some performance. It's her subconscious aligning her femininity with what she perceives to be your masculine polarity. Her tone becomes less performative and more receptive. She wants you to feel at ease, drawn in, disarmed. Her voice becomes an invitation. Now pay close attention to her touch, because physical contact for a woman is never just physical. It's emotional, psychological, and deeply intentional. A brush on the arm, a playful nudge, the way her fingers linger longer than they need to when handing you something. These are not accidents. These are signals. And here's the key: they often escalate in intimacy as you respond positively. It's a silent conversation happening beneath the surface. She gives, you receive, and if you hold that space with maturity and confidence, she deepens the exchange. Even more revealing are the ways she engages with the space around you. Notice if she starts mirroring your posture, syncing her body language with yours. That's called limbic resonance. It's a neurological phenomenon where two people in emotional harmony begin to reflect each other unconsciously. If you lean in and she leans in too, if you fold your arms and she slowly mirrors the same, she's aligning with you on a primal level. That's not coincidence. That's connection. That's her saying, "I want to feel close to you," even if she doesn't say a single word. And let's not forget scent, because women, biologically speaking, are incredibly sensitive to it. If she's leaning in closer when you speak, taking in your natural scent, or adjusting her own perfume, she's attuning herself to the chemistry between you. Human attraction is deeply influenced by pheromones, chemical signals our bodies emit subconsciously, and while you may not notice it, her body does. She doesn't just want to look at you, she wants to experience you through all 5 senses. Desire lives in those details. All of these signals, the gaze, the voice, the touch, the space, the scent, they are all part of her sensory intelligence. Women are deeply intuitive beings. When they're drawn to a man sexually, they don't always make grand gestures. Instead, they create a sensory tapestry, a layered network of subtle cues, through which they invite you in. They test not just your awareness, but your sensitivity, your ability to notice. Because if you can't sense her cues, she will retreat. Not because she's lost interest, but because you failed the first testing the test of presence. And that, right there, is what most men need to understand. A woman doesn't want to sleep with a man who isn't present, who isn't attuned, who is so focused on outcomes that he misses the process. For her, the process is the seduction. It's not about rushing to the destination. It's about being aware enough to dance through the signals she's laying out along the way. You see, desire isn't about performance. It's about energy. It's about connection. And when a woman begins to engage all 5 of her senses around you, that's not small talk or flirtation. That's vulnerability in motion. That's her risking a part of her truth to see if you're man enough to hold it without abusing it. It's her way of saying, "I want you to notice me, not just see me but feel me." So, ask yourself, are you aware enough to listen to what she's not saying? Are you still enough to catch what her body is revealing before her words ever try? Because the men who understand this, the men who are grounded, alert, and emotionally intelligent, don't chase signs, they receive them. they respect them, and they know how to move with intention rather than impulse. It's important to understand that a woman who is sexually attracted to you will rarely make that attraction obvious in public settings. Not because she isn't bold or expressive, but because desire, real desire, doesn't shout. It isolates. It removes distractions. It creates private moments that allow connection to breathe, undisturbed by noise, pressure, or external judgment. If she's into you, especially in a sexual way, you'll begin to notice her making space. Literal and emotional space. For just the two of you. That's not coincidence. That's intentional architecture. A woman who wants to sleep with you doesn't just look for chemistry. She curates it. This is where emotional and physical isolation becomes such a powerful indicator. If she consistently finds ways to pull you away from the crowd, to have you alone, or to be in situations where the energy becomes more intimate, more focused, she's signaling something deeply instinctive. Attraction for her becomes sharper in solitude. She's not trying to trap you in a dark room or throw herself at you. That's not her language. Her language is presence. Her language is choice. She's choosing moments where she doesn't have to compete with other people for your attention, or with the rest of the world for hers. She might suggest a walk, seemingly innocent, but one that places you side by side, distanced from others, lost in conversation. Or maybe she invites you over to watch something. But what she's really doing is inviting you into her space, her atmosphere, her comfort zone, where the rules shift, where vulnerability can emerge organically. And if you're paying attention, you'll feel that shift. The conversation gets slower. The eye contact lasts longer. There's more silence between sentences. But it's not awkward. It's intentional. That silence holds weight. It's charged. She's watching how you sit in that silence, how you respond to closeness without noise. And that's the thing. She doesn't need a bed to test chemistry. She only needs a moment where the world feels like it's shrunk to just you and her. That's the beginning. She might lower her voice in those private moments, leaning closer, or sit beside you rather than across from you. These are unconscious ways she collapses distance, not just physical distance, but emotional, psychological distance. She wants to feel if the connection deepens when the crowd disappears, when it's just you, when there's no audience. Because, for her, desire is never performative, it's experiential. The environments she selects, quiet places, late hours, intimate lighting, these are not trivial. They are symbolic. Darkness has always been the friend of vulnerability. The time of night she chooses to reach out says more than the words in her message. Midnight calls are rarely just about catching up. They are about permission, about timing, about readiness. Late night interactions lower defenses, the ego quiets, the mind slows, and the body speaks more clearly. If she chooses those hours with you, she's choosing to be seen outside of the social mask. And that matters. A woman who wants to sleep with you doesn't create chaos. She creates containment. She'll want to know how you behave when no one else is watching, how you speak when the energy turns soft, whether you're patient, grounded, or rushing, because her desire is not simply for a man. It's for the right man. A man who can navigate the stillness without panicking. A man who won't use privacy as a weapon but as a sanctuary. She needs to trust that intimacy with you won't cost her safety. And the way you handle those isolated moments will tell her everything. What's fascinating is that most men think escalation happens through grand moves. Leaning in, going for the kiss, physical touch. But for women, escalation is more often about emotional temperature. If you notice her shifting from general conversation to more personal, emotionally charged topics when you're alone, that's escalation. When she starts exploring your past, your heartbreaks, your dreams, that's her way of opening a deeper layer of connection. It's not small talk anymore. She's measuring depth. She's testing if you have the emotional capacity for intimacy, not just the physical urge for it. It's also worth mentioning how protective women are of their emotional boundaries. So when she invites you into a private moment, even if subtly, it's not casual. It's earned. If she's making time for you, interrupting her day, carving out moments just to talk, sending those late night, "What are you doing?" texts, that's not boredom. That's desire looking for a doorway. And the doorway isn't your body. It's your awareness. She wants to know, do you see what she's doing? Or are you oblivious, trapped in superficial expectations? And perhaps the most telling sign is this. She starts expressing herself more freely when it's just the two of you. Her jokes get bolder. Her compliments more direct. She may test the waters with slightly provocative remarks or playful innuendos, watching to see how you respond. Not because she's offering herself, but because she's trying to decode your maturity. Can you handle flirtation without crumbling into desperation? Can you mirror her energy without overpowering it? These are her real questions. Not spoken, but deeply present. So many men miss this. They think a woman will make it obvious when she's ready. But the truth is, she's already made it obvious. You just weren't paying attention. She didn't need to declare her desire. She showed it in the way she created space for you to see her. Not the public version, not the polished avatar, but her raw, receptive, sensual self. And if you don't recognize that moment for what it is, you don't just lose an opportunity for sex. You lose something far more meaningful. You lose the privilege of being trusted with her truth. There's a fascinating truth about female communication that most men never quite grasp. The real message is rarely in the words themselves. It lives beneath the surface. And when a woman is sexually interested in you, her conversations begin to carry double meanings. What sounds innocent on the surface is often a carefully constructed blend of humor, flirtation, and psychological probing. It's called sexual subtext. And it's not just some playful banter. It's a language of intimacy, delivered through metaphor, irony, tone, and timing. This is how women test the waters without exposing themselves to unnecessary vulnerability. Because here's the thing, unlike men, women are taught, both socially and biologically, to be measured in how they display desire. Not because they're less sexual, but because the consequences of revealing that sexuality have always been more layered, more complicated. So they develop strategies. Sophisticated, often subconscious techniques that signal their interest while still protecting their dignity, their mystery, and their sense of control. That's what subtext is. It's the dance before the dance, and if you miss it, you miss everything. Think about it. She's not going to say, "I want to sleep with you." That's too risky, too exposed. Instead, she'll tease you about being trouble, or make playful comments that flirt with boundaries but never quite cross them. She'll joke about things like, "I bet you're dangerous," or "You probably have women lined up." And while on the surface it sounds like casual banter, what she's really doing is watching your response, measuring your awareness, evaluating whether you understand the game she's playing, and more importantly, whether you can play it without fumbling. If you take her words at face value, you miss the deeper invitation. But if you overplay your hand, becoming crude, arrogant, or too forward, you break the spell. Because subtext is delicate. It's about emotional intelligence. It's not about being clever. It's about being attuned. She's inviting you into a space where desire is hinted at, not demanded. Where the tension is more important than the release. Where the excitement lies in anticipation, not conquest. And that space is sacred to her. It's where trust begins. Now here's where it gets deeper. When a woman starts steering conversations toward your past, asking about your exes, your fantasies, what you find attractive, it's rarely out of pure curiosity. She's trying to map your sexual landscape without putting herself on display. She's gathering information, yes, but she's also sending signals. She's letting you know that the door is open, that this isn't just friendly interest, that there's room to explore. But again, she's watching how you speak about women, watching how you speak about her. Because a woman who wants to sleep with you doesn't just want your body. She wants to know her body will be respected in your hands. You'll notice too, the conversations will often shift between light and serious, humor laced with a hint of vulnerability, laughter followed by a long pause. She might say something suggestive and then act as if it wasn't meant that way. But don't be fooled. That's part of the artistry. That's her way of showing you she's bold, but also selective. Open, but not reckless. She wants you to earn the deeper layers, not bulldoze your way through them. That's the test. Can you handle the temperature rising without losing your composure? Can you navigate tension without becoming aggressive or desperate? It's in those moments that she's making her real decision. Not based on how tall you are, how smooth you talk, or how impressive your life sounds. She's watching your awareness, your ability to listen beneath the words, your ability to sit in a space of possibility without rushing to certainty. She's asking herself, does he see me? Does he feel me? Or is he just waiting for the green light to pursue his own gratification? And let me say this clearly. When a woman starts layering sexual energy into everyday conversation, she's not being manipulative. She's being wise. She knows that her body is powerful, that her desire, when revealed in its raw form, carries immense weight. So she protects it. She reveals it slowly through coded language, symbolic gestures, and calibrated risk. And if you're a man who's grounded, who's present, who knows how to feel what's under the surface, you'll receive the message loud and clear, even if no explicit words are ever spoken. This kind of communication isn't just seductive. It's spiritual, because it speaks to something older than language, something ancient, something sacred. It's the feminine testing the masculine's readiness. It's not about being seductive. It's about being selective. She's not asking if you want her. She's asking if you're ready for her, ready to meet her where she is, ready to move with restraint when needed and confidence when invited. Too many men fumble this. They hear a joke and turn it into a proposition. They miss the emotional foreplay and lunge for the physical. And then they wonder why the connection disappears, why the energy shifts, why she suddenly pulls away. It's because they skipped the language of subtext. They ignored the invitation and went straight for the outcome. And in doing so, they failed the moment. So if you find yourself talking to a woman who seems playful, provocative, slightly more curious than necessary, don't just respond with charm, respond with depth. Meet her energy not with aggression, but with presence. Show her that you're not just listening to her words, but to her spirit. That you understand the dance, and that you're not in a rush to end the music. If you've ever paid attention, not just with your eyes, but with your emotional awareness, you'd know that when a woman truly wants you, she begins to shift how she shares herself. And I'm not talking about her body, I'm talking about her availability, her time, her presence, her emotional bandwidth. That's the fourth sign most men miss completely. A woman who wants to sleep with you will start to prioritize you, not necessarily in loud, obvious ways, but in subtle, consistent ways that reveal her growing investment. And the reason so many men overlook this is because they confuse availability with boredom or friendliness. But for a woman, conscious availability is a powerful act of selection. Understand this: women are never truly free. Their lives are full of responsibilities, of relationships, of emotional negotiations that men are often never even asked to make. So when a woman starts carving out time for you, replying quickly when she usually doesn't, checking in just to see how you're doing, or creating space for unplanned interactions, what she's really doing is placing you in her mental and emotional orbit. She's inviting you into her rhythm. That is no small gesture. That is not just casual interest. That is intention. A woman's attention is her currency, and she doesn't spend it loosely. She spends it where she feels potential. She invests it where she senses safety. And when her desire for you begins to build, you'll notice that her boundaries start shifting in ways that allow intimacy to unfold more naturally. She'll stop making excuses about time. She'll linger after conversations should have ended. She'll stay on the phone a little longer. She'll be too tired for everything else but not too tired for you. Those are not romantic flukes. Those are signs. The psychology behind this is actually rooted in behavioral prioritization. People, regardless of gender, instinctively reorganize their schedules around what brings them either pleasure or meaning. If she's beginning to experience both with you, if there's a sense of excitement and emotional substance in your interactions, she's going to make room for that. Even if it disrupts her routine, even if it means less sleep, less focus on something else. That's sacrifice. That's not something women make lightly, but it is something they offer when their desire is no longer just physical. It's relational. You'll notice this especially in how she initiates. Suddenly, she's not just responding. She's reaching out. She sends you something funny that made her think of you. She asks questions that go beyond small talk. She follows up on things you said in previous conversations. That's not just communication. That's tracking. That's someone who is mentally and emotionally engaged. And when that engagement starts taking up space in her day, When your presence begins to influence how she thinks and moves, what you're witnessing is the slow formation of intimacy. Don't confuse this with neediness. This isn't about dependence. This is about willingness. She is willing to open space for you because something about you resonates. Because your energy makes her feel seen, excited, safe, or maybe all three. This doesn't mean she's going to throw herself at you. Women who respect themselves don't do that. What it does mean is that she's slowly taking down the walls that keep most men out. She's inviting you into the realm of possibility. Now, here's where many men go wrong. They mistake this kind of access for permission. Just because she's making herself available doesn't mean she's made a final decision. She's watching. She's measuring how you hold the space she's offering, whether you respect it, whether you're consistent, whether you show up fully, or just show up for what you want. Because her availability is not a guarantee. It's a test, a mirror. She wants to see how you respond when given access to her attention without demand. You have to understand, when a woman starts prioritizing you, she's not just giving you time. She's giving you influence. She's letting your presence shape part of her day, part of her emotional atmosphere. And when that happens, you are no longer a background character. You become part of her narrative. The question she's quietly asking is, can you carry that weight without dropping it? Because desire is not just about chemistry. It's about capacity. The capacity to hold space, to listen, to reciprocate. And when a woman starts orienting her energy toward you, she's asking, without saying it, if you can meet her there. Now, if you're emotionally immature, you'll see this as a green light to push forward, to escalate, to take. But if you're emotionally intelligent, you'll recognize the honor in it, the dignity in it. You'll understand that her attention isn't cheap, that her time is sacred, and that any moment she chooses to spend with you, especially when she could be doing 100 other things, is a gift. One that comes wrapped not in fireworks, but in soft moments, shared silences, meaningful exchanges. And here's something else you need to know. This availability often arrives with a kind of quiet excitement. You'll sense it. The way she shows up just a little more dressed up when she knows she might see you. The way she checks her phone just a bit more frequently when you're texting. The subtle nervous energy, the suppressed smile, the tone that softens when she says your name. That's not just attraction. That's a woman who is beginning to emotionally lean in. When a woman begins to invest her time and energy into you, she is preparing the space for something more. And that more isn't just about sex. It's about depth. Because when she desires you enough to reorganize her life to include you, she's doing what women have always done when love, or lust, begins to matter, and she's making room. Attraction, when it's real, doesn't just stay in the realm of flirtation. It leaks. It seeps into everyday decisions. It alters behavior in ways that often feel irrational to the woman experiencing them, yet utterly intentional to the man observant enough to notice. That's what the fifth sign is all about. A woman who wants to sleep with you will start making low-risk, high-intimacy offers. Invitations, gestures, and decisions that seem harmless on the surface, but when you look closer are deeply revealing. Because while she might not be ready to cross the line yet, she's certainly drawing one around you. These gestures might look like small, convenient offers at first. You can crash at my place if it's too late to drive. Or, come over, I made extra food. But what these moments actually are, is framing. She's framing your presence into her personal world. She's bringing you closer to her routines, her environment, her comfort zones, to test not just your compatibility, but her comfort with you in increasingly vulnerable settings. She's not throwing herself at you. She's watching how you behave when she doesn't have to protect herself with social distance. You'll notice it in her tone when she suggests these things. There's a casualness, sure, but underneath that is a pulse of anticipation. She's giving you access, but with boundaries. A woman who's interested sexually won't always say, I want to sleep with you. But she will say, stay longer, come inside, let's hang out somewhere private. Why? Because she's creating opportunity. Controlled, safe, manageable opportunity. Not because she's playing games, but because female desire often requires safety to emerge fully. And until she knows how you move in close proximity, she won't move further. And the reason she keeps it low risk is psychological. It allows her to study how you navigate space when sex is only implied, not offered. Do you pressure her? Do you rush? Do you ignore the subtle cues that say not yet? Or do you respond with maturity, patience, and emotional presence? Because what you do in those low-risk moments tells her what you'll do in the high-stakes ones. And more importantly, whether or not her instincts about you were correct. Sometimes it looks like her asking you to help with something she could easily do alone. Moving something, fixing something, coming with her to a place she usually goes solo. These aren't requests for favors, they're tests of intimacy. She wants to know how it feels to rely on you in small ways. She's sampling trust. And if you pass those tests, if you show up grounded, respectful, quietly attentive, she will begin to lean in. And as that trust builds, so does the erotic tension. Because now you're not just a man she flirts with. You're a man she can trust with proximity. And for many women, that's the line between attraction and action. Now this part is subtle, but critical. She starts creating the space around you. She changes outfits when she knows she'll see you. She lets her guard down physically just a little more. Her scent changes. Her energy shifts. She begins to care more about how you experience her. Not because she's trying to impress you, but because she's rehearsing closeness. She's testing how confident, sensual, or feminine she can be around you without fear of being judged, objectified, or ignored. And if you mirror that with presence, not performance, you create an unspoken contract of safety. That's the real currency. That's when the door truly begins to open. And when she begins inviting you into her private spaces. Her home, her room, her late night moods. She's not just showing you where she lives. She's showing you who she is when the world turns off. That's vulnerability. That's trust on display. She's watching how you sit in that silence, how you behave in her intimate terrain, how you treat her space. Because if you treat her space with reverence, she begins to imagine how you might treat her with that same energy. And now it's no longer about whether she wants you. It becomes about whether she can trust herself with you. You see, women don't just seek arousal. They seek alignment. They want to feel safe, seen, and stimulated in the same breath. And that's what these low-risk, high-intimacy offers are really about. They are signals wrapped in ordinary moments. They are coded invitations, and they are incredibly easy to miss if you're too focused on the outcome instead of the experience. She's not trying to rush into bed. She's trying to build a bridge to it. And she's watching if you have the emotional intelligence to walk, not run, across it. Now here's the part that separates the boys from the men. If she makes these small offers and you try to force the next level, you break the trust. But if you receive these gestures with grace, with a slow burn of respect, her attraction will deepen. Because you're showing her that her desire doesn't need to be forced into performance, that she can unfold in her own timing, and that when she's ready, she won't have to say anything. She'll just move toward you with certainty, because you've already shown her you're the kind of man who waits with presence instead of pushing with ego. So many men ruin the moment by chasing sex, instead of understanding the choreography of intimacy. But women don't want to be chased. They want to be chosen. They want to feel like their timing, their safety, and their silence are all respected. Because when a woman gives you access to her time, her space, and her energy in these subtle, intimate ways, she's not just inviting you in. She's asking you to prove you belong there. By the time you reach this point, when her sensory energy is sharp, when she's created emotional privacy, when her conversations are laced with double meanings, when she's made herself available and offered you subtle intimacy, you're already inside her psychological orbit. But there's one final sign that often seals it, and it's the most profound of them all. She begins to let her emotional guard down around you. And no, this isn't about crying on your shoulder or trauma dumping. This is about exposure, vulnerability, the slow, deliberate unraveling of a woman who has decided you might just be safe enough to be real with. When a woman wants to sleep with you, not out of impulse, but from a place of conscious attraction, her desire is always preceded by one thing: emotional lowering of the drawbridge. You'll notice the shift. Suddenly, the performance ends. She stops trying to impress you. The filter fades. She begins to talk in ways that reveal her inner world, not just her thoughts, but her fears, her uncertainties, her longings. And that's when you need to understand that this is not deep conversation for the sake of bonding. This is exposure as foreplay. This is intimacy rehearsal. Because contrary to what pop culture often tells us, most women don't separate emotional vulnerability from sexual desire. For them, the two are often inseparable. When she starts expressing pieces of herself that she usually keeps tucked away, she's not just sharing, she's surrendering, not to you as a man she needs, but to the feeling she has when she's with you. A feeling that says, I don't have to hide here. And when a woman doesn't feel the need to hide, that's when desire, authentic, embodied, electric desire, takes root. She might start talking about her past, not the polished version she shares with the world, but the raw, unfiltered one. She might laugh at herself more openly, admit her insecurities, or tell you what she's scared of. Even if only in passing, she begins to bring you into her emotional landscape. And while the conversation might not be directly sexual, the intimacy of it is. Because in her mind, you're already occupying the kind of space that leads to closeness. The kind of closeness that makes sex feel not just desired, but safe. The irony is many men miss this moment entirely. They're too focused on the physical cues, too preoccupied with signals of readiness they can touch or see. But this is the real doorway. A woman who opens up emotionally is often far closer to sleeping with you than one who flirts aggressively but keeps her heart locked behind armor. It's not about what she wears, how she moves, or even what she says. It's about the energy, the softness, the willingness to let her guard slip in your presence. That's the sign she's choosing you with more than just her body. She's choosing you with her trust. This doesn't mean you have to play therapist. In fact, you shouldn't. You don't need to fix anything. What you do need to do is hold space. That phrase gets thrown around a lot, but here's what it really means. Don't rush to conclusions. Don't minimize what she's sharing. Don't try to make it about you. Just be there. Be steady. Be warm. Be open. She's not looking for answers. She's looking for resonance. For a signal that says, I can show up as myself here, and it will be received. Not judged, not exploited, but received. You'll notice that as she begins to let her emotional armor down, the way she touches you changes too. It becomes more meaningful, slower, more exploratory. Her presence deepens. Her eye contact lingers in a different way. Not because she's trying to seduce, but because she's letting herself feel. That's when you know her body is no longer just performing interest. It's responding to something it trusts, something it finds emotionally and energetically safe. And when a woman feels safe in your presence, her desire naturally expands. It's not something you need to provoke. It's something you need to protect. Now here's the responsibility most men overlook. When a woman lowers her emotional guard, she is exposing the part of herself that has been most wounded. And she's trusting you to hold it. If you respond with arrogance, with insincerity, or with emotional detachment, the door closes. Not because she's playing games, but because her nervous system retreats to protection mode. It says, this man is not safe. But if you meet her openness with your own, not by dumping your emotions, but by being emotionally available, then what you're doing is matching her vulnerability with presence. That's the soil where real intimacy grows. That's where sexual energy blooms from the deepest roots. Because real attraction, especially the kind that leads to physical closeness, is not a performance. It's a reveal. It's her slowly showing you that beneath the charm, the smiles, the flirtation, lives a woman who feels, who fears, who longs, and who wants to be seen without having to constantly protect herself. If she gives you that version of herself, even briefly, you are not just a man she likes. You are a man she trusts with the truth of her. That is sacred ground. And how you walk on it determines everything. And so, if you're the kind of man who can see beyond surface cues, who listens when she whispers emotionally rather than just physically, who honors the courage it takes for a woman to show her soul before her skin, then understand this: you are already in a place of closeness most men never reach.